Hi, my name is David Clark. I lecture in historical theology at the University of Roehampton in London. And in today's lesson, I'll be giving a general overview on the ethical use of AI for academic writing and research. What we'll do is we will break down the process of research and writing into four components. First, we will talk about background research. Then we will talk about primary research. Then we'll look at the actual process of writing. And finally, we'll talk about proofreading and formatting. And in each of these cases, our question will be, is it ethical to use AI generators and AI sources to assist me in this process? And so the first component is background research. Now, I think of background research as the process of becoming familiar with a research topic. Once you know what the research question is, AI tools can really be helpful in assisting you to get a general orientation on the topic. They can point to published works on the subject. They can explain how different approaches to the topic have evolved over the years. And they can even give you short summaries of what different authors and researchers have said about the particular subject. So let's imagine that you're in an Old Testament module and your research task is to write a 2,000-word essay on the topic of henotheism in the Old Testament. Now, hopefully, if you've been given this task, the tutor will have explained a bit on what henotheism is. But let's just say that perhaps you're not really clear about what the tutor said. And so you can go to ChatGPT, you can go to Google Gemini, and you can just type in the question, what is the meaning of henotheism in the Old Testament? And there you might find that this term was actually coined by a scholar named Max Mueller, who said that henotheism basically means monotheism in principle and polytheism in fact. And so you've now got a good understanding of the term, and from there you can now gather additional background information. So you might type in questions like, did the ancient Hebrews worship multiple gods? How has the academic understanding of henotheism evolved over the past 100 years? You might even say, give me the names of 5 academic resources that deal with the topic of henotheism in the Old Testament. And then if you really want to become elaborate, you can say, give me a 300-word summary of each of the above named sources. Now, the question is this ethical academic practice? And I would say that unless you have received guidance from your tutor that specifically prohibits using AI in any form whatsoever, I believe that using AI sources for this kind of background research is completely ethical. And so I will mark this as a green light. I think it's fine. I think it's okay. Now let's look at the second component of research, and this is what I'm calling primary research. I define primary research as engagement with an original source of knowledge. So, are AI generators original sources of knowledge? The answer is no. Original knowledge is found in material created by someone with direct experience of the subject. In biblical studies, for example, this is often going to be found in academic books and articles written by scholars who have studied the biblical text in their original language and the historical context of the authors, scholars who have engaged with archaeological research, and it could include material written by scholars who have studied the cultural beliefs and practices of people who lived at the time when the text was written. An AI generator can only produce content by analyzing patterns in existing data. AI is completely dependent on what other people have already said. AI generators pull information from everything that is on the web, it analyzes it, it synthesizes it, and then it explains it in accessible terms. Now, that can be very helpful, but again, I want to emphasize AI is not an original source of knowledge. So you can use AI, as I've noted above, for background study. But when it comes time to really dig in on a subject, you need to go to the original source, the original, real, live person, a real human brain who thinks and who reasons. AI can point you to where these people are and where you can find their writings, but then you have to go and engage with that source directly. So in my paper on henotheism, I have already asked AI to give me the names of 5 publications and to give me a summary of what they've said. Now the next step is I have to go to my library or I have to go to my online repositories and I have to find these books, I have to find these articles, and then I have to get reading. This is primary research, and when I give my students the task of writing a research essay, this is the kind of academic research that I expect them to carry out. I expect them to get the books in their hands, to find the articles, to find the ebooks online, and to read and to take notes. So, when we're talking about the area of using AI for primary research, I give this a red light. I say, do not do it. You have to go directly to the original source of knowledge. Okay, now the third component is academic writing. As I've noted in a previous session, using AI to write any portion of your research paper is cheating. It's plagiarism, and at our university, it's considered academic misconduct. Now, plagiarism is the act of presenting material that has been written by someone else as if it were your own. So for example, I can go on to ChatGPT and I can enter in the following prompt. Generate a 2,000 word essay, okay, I'm typing this out, on the practice of henotheism in the Old Testament. Cite 5 different authors, include 10 references, and include a bibliography in Harvard format at the end. The generator will produce an expert essay that is probably better than anything that I could write or any of my students could write. If you do this, and then you submit this essay as if it were your own, you are cheating. You have committed plagiarism, and that is academic misconduct. But maybe we're thinking there's some other ways around this. What if I get this essay from ChatGPT and then I just cut out a paragraph or 2 and paste that into my document? And then what if I go through and change a word here or there and delete a sentence and kind of change the structure of a couple of sentences? Is that okay? And the answer is no. That is called patch writing, and that is also considered plagiarism. Or you might say, well, what if I take this essay and I take all of the information that's there, the structure and the organization, and then I just rewrite the entire essay in my own words? Is that plagiarism? And the answer is yes, because the organizational structure is not your own, and the information that you're presenting there is not the product of your own research. And I'm sure there will be many other ways that students are thinking about, how can I use this? How can I take this AI-generated essay and use it in the process of creating my own answer? And my response is simply, don't do it. The only way to ethically use AI text in your essay is to put it into your document, put it inside quotation marks, and add a reference after that quotation. Now, There are some instances where you can do this ethically, but generally speaking, I would say that the person reading and marking your essay is not going to be overly impressed by your quotes from ChatGPT. And so I would say that in the category of using AI generators to write material for my submissions, to write material for my essays, I would give it a red light. Resist the temptation, don't do it. Okay, and so now we'll go on to the fourth point, using AI for proofreading and formatting. Now, I will note that AI tools can be really helpful for proofreading, correcting, and formatting your essay for submission. AI tools can analyze your work for clarity and conciseness. They can give suggestions for better sentence and paragraph structure. They can analyze the structure and the organization of the essay. They can find errors in spelling and syntax and grammar. They can format your in-text references, and they can even format your bibliography. But your ability to use these sources really depends on the guidance that you have been given. There are tutors and there are editors, when we're talking about books and journals, that specifically prohibit AI for this type of proofreading and manuscript modification. So you need to find out what are your guidelines. In my modules, I allow my students to use AI for this type of assistance, but I also tell them that I want to see the final draft of the essay that they had in their hands before they submitted it to AI for proofreading. That is, I want to see both the product before using AI and then what they had after they used it. I want to make sure that they have only used the AI tool for minor corrections and minor alterations, and that they have not allowed AI to rewrite the essay for them. So for this kind of proofreading, I actually really like Microsoft Copilot. You can upload the document and then you can enter what kind of prompt you want. You can say, review this essay for grammar, sentence structure, and syntax. You can say, give me suggestions on how I can better organize this essay. You can say, review my bibliography and make sure that it's correctly formatted according to the Harvard style. And so when we're talking about using AI for this kind of proofreading and this kind of review of a document, I would give it a yellow light. I would say that if your tutor and if your editor are okay with you using it in this way, then that's fine. But if you have received guidance not to use AI for proofreading, then don't do it. And once again, make sure that you are only using this proofreading function to make minor corrections, and that you're not using AI to completely restructure or to completely rewrite your essay. Okay, so let's go over what we've looked at today. We've looked at, first, background research. And in the area of using AI to get a general orientation and a general understanding of a research topic, I have given it a green light. Second, we have looked at this idea of primary research. And once again, we have defined primary research as engagement with the original source of information. Now, because AI is not an original source of information, it cannot be relied upon for primary research. And so in this category, I say red light, don't do it. The third area is writing. It comes time that after you've done your research and taken your notes, now I've got to write up the essay. And once again here, I say red light. Do not use AI to generate a portion or even the entire essay. You must write the essay yourself. I tell my students that they have to hear the sound of the keyboard, the keys clicking as they write the essay. Essay writing is not a process of cutting and pasting. And finally, for proofreading and for formatting, it depends on the guidance that you have received. I give this a yellow light. If your editor, if your tutor is comfortable with you using AI for proofreading, then I say go for it. But if you have received guidance saying that you cannot use AI for these purposes, then don't do it. So that's our lesson for today, and I hope this has been helpful.